Jacob Puckett. Remember them. Remember them, Jacob Puckett.
Pericles stood before the crowd in 431 BC. He was about to do what no man had done before. His duty was to eulogize the Athenians who had died fighting against Sparta and her allies. But this wasn't what made it unique, though. It was a yearly tradition to honor in this way those who had fallen in battle. No, it was what Pericles said that brought his funeral oration to life. And Athens was fighting a bitter war against the cities closest to her, the most famous of which was Sparta. And Pericles himself was a general, and he became the most famous statesman in Athenian history. Of all the times during Athens' storied history, her golden age came during Pericles' tenure, which is why he was chosen to give a speech honoring those who had fallen in her defense. When the dead soldiers had been interred, Pericles came forward and stepped before the crowd. In what is considered to be the first great speech in recorded history, he begins by saying that he doesn't think that mere words could do justice to what these men had accomplished. Our belief in the courage and manliness of so many should not be jeopardized by the goodness or badness of one man's speech, he told them. Their actions speak for themselves, he thought, and that is what should be recognized. But what made these men heroes, it was not that they died, but how they died, and what they gave up in death. As Pericles stood before the crowd, his speech took a turn towards the unknown. Every other funeral oration before him had focused solely and sorrowfully on the soldiers themselves. But throughout his career, Pericles wasn't known to simply follow the pattern. He told them that these men died with one thought in their minds: defend their country. For it was their country that had given them the best opportunities that life could offer. And Pericles then offered an impassioned defense of Athens' way of life. Other nations were thought to be greater. Athens was greater than others thought. Other nations were students of the laws of their neighbors. Athens was their teacher. Other nations produced only soldiers. Athens was diverse and fought better. In Athens, the law benefits the many and not the few. In Athens, lack of wealth doesn't mean lack of influence. In Athens, each man lives as he pleases. In Athens, those who best know both harmony and hardship never shrink from danger. In Athens, all have something at stake in the public welfare, so all are well informed about public matters. In Athens, all benefit from democracy. Pericles stood before the crowd, and he told them that such was the Athens for which these men, in the assertion of their resolve not to lose her, nobly fought and died. Facing their enemies, they chose to die resisting rather than to live submitted. Their only fear was dishonor as they met danger face to face. These men were young. They had much to live for. These men were honorable. They had much to lose. Life is filled with chance. These men chose to die for glory. As such, these men are heroes. And as heroes, these men will be remembered. Pericles stood before the crowd. A crowd of grieving countrymen, grieving parents, grieving brothers and sisters. He offered little to feed their anguish, but he briefly addressed their grief. when you see other people happy, you will often be reminded of what once made you happy. Grief is felt not so much for the want of what you've never known, but for the loss of that which we are used to. With such condolences, he departed from the crowd. Pericles' funeral oration is timeless and not so distant from today. The greatest eulogy for soldiers in American history, the Gettysburg Address, is indebted to Pericles' words. When Abraham Lincoln stood before the crowd at the site of the Union's greatest victory, his thought for the soldiers was the same. To men who fall as they have fallen, death is no evil. The words of John F. Kennedy echo what Pericles spoke when he said that he too embraces the danger of meeting his enemies face to face, risking to die resisting rather than to live submitted. And Pericles, when he stood before the crowd, gave voice to the immortal creed seared into all our hearts, that those who live and die as heroes should be remembered as such. Mr. Toastmaster.